Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
Hi, this is Chris Kuruc from KINETIC, and you're listening to today's New Warehouse podcast. Today's safety tip is embrace smart technology, embrace data. So just like consumer wearable activity trackers measure health indicators, support increased physical activity, there's an exercise and health revolution happening right now in the consumer space. Industrial wearables measure worker safety indicators and reduce workplace injuries and illness. So augmenting workers with technology is really a near-term opportunity that warehouses should adopt to help keep their workforce safe. In 5 to 10 years, wearables and other tech are going to be ubiquitous hard hats and high visibility vests in industrial settings. And the data they generate is going to drive real positive change for safety and behaviors and environment. So I couldn't recommend anything more than really taking a look at smart technology and figuring out how it could help your operations.
Fulfillment demand continues to skyrocket and outpace available labor. To keep up, warehouse operators are turning to flexible fulfillment solutions like 6 River Systems. Utilizing 6 River Systems' award-winning combination of collaborative robots, artificial intelligence, and operational expertise will make your associates and wall-to-wall fulfillment workflow more efficient. No new infrastructure, no change to warehouse layout, easy to deploy and scale, easy to train and retain associates, all at half the cost of traditional automation. Want to take your fulfillment operation to the next level? Go to www.6river.com to learn more. That's www.6river.com to learn more.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. On today's episode, I am going to be joined by Chris Kuruc. He is the Vice President and Head of Product at KINETIC. So KINETIC is a wearable technology company, but a wearable technology company on the safety side of things. So they provide a wearable device that allows you to know when you're too close to somebody, helps you do contact tracing, and also helps you with ergonomics and allows you to alert workers and yourself to when you're in a compromising position that may be damaging or detrimental to your back or your body in some way. So it's really interesting technology. So I'm really excited to hear about it, especially, being a safety manager myself. And, I'm very curious to hear about the technology. So I want to welcome Chris to the show. Chris, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Definitely happy to have you. And we're not so far away from each other, but I guess the pandemic, we can't be close together, both in New Jersey here, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So why don't you tell us a little bit about KINETIC and what it is that you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you gave us a little bit of a great intro there, but we create a wearable technology and a software analytics platform for connected industrial workers. So our smart wearable, we call it the KINETIC Reflex, reduces incidence of workplace injuries by automatically detecting unsafe postures, and we provide workers with real-time feedback whenever a high-risk motion occurs. So think of these as the, lifting with your back instead of your legs, reaches, stretches, a lot of the things that drive lower back injuries. We're really an ergonomics coach that's with you throughout your day. And over time, workers can use the Reflex to improve their biomechanics, the way they move, resulting in fewer injuries and really improved well-being. Safety managers, someone in your position,
yes,
can view all of the high-risk data through a KINETIC dashboard And that'll help you make targeted changes to workplace processes that can help reduce risk further. So we really believe in a combination of both behavior, how workers move, as well as operations, the environment, the processes they move within, to drive lasting safety improvements and reduce injury rates. And so KINETIC helps companies improve employee health. And we also help cut direct and indirect expenses from injuries and lost work days. So I can give you a quick example of what I'm talking about. Iron Mountain is one of our customers.
Okay.
They're a leading storage and information management company. And organizations in every major industry and all sizes trust them with their records and document management, data backup, recovery, secure shredding. They have over 24,000 drivers and material handling associates in their warehouses.
Wow.
And they have an incredible safety culture, and they're a great customer to work with. And they've been using the KINETIC Reflex in over 60 sites around North America. So through these behavior changes, through the data we provide their safety managers at each of their sites, they've been able to see a 64% reduction in OSHA recordable injury rates year over year, 58% reduction in the cost of workers' comp claims. And, they're looking at a 5-to-1 ratio of dollars saved through those injuries and lost work days versus what they invested in KINETIC. So, those are all really impressive numbers, and we're proud of those. But there's also a human element to this. And it's something that really drives a lot of the work we do at KINETIC, is that each one of those injuries is a person. And I speak with our customers, facility managers across the country every week. And, a great example, one thing I heard from someone at Iron Mountain is, when I sleep at night, I would have back pain, and after moving right, they don't have that pain anymore. And that's really what we're driving towards, helping these workers in these facilities do their jobs, stay safe, and get home to their families.
Yeah, definitely. And, I think that last point there is what safety is all about, and having good safety culture is all about, as well as getting people home to their families, like you said. But it's really interesting, to technology, and, I was curious about how effective it is. And, those numbers that you're throwing out, they're really impressive, and it sounds like you guys are really making an impact. And that human element too that you mentioned is a big deal. I think the fact that the employees actually notice the difference is amazing. So you said it, it's a wearable. So what is the wearable like? Like, where do you wear it?
Yeah, sure. So the wearable, it's a small device that you wear on your hip.
Okay.
It's kind of akin to an old school pager, and it's you clip it onto your belt or your pants, and there are sensors in it that automatically recognize those unsafe biomechanics that are common on the job. So things like I mentioned earlier, bending, overreaching, twisting. When a worker does that, they'll receive a light vibration that alerts them that, hey, you just did something that was unsafe, and that helps them know that. Be aware of their movements, and then they can, with coaching from their safety manager or others in the company, start to adjust the way they move. And then, we pair that along with some goal and reward functions. So things like saying, I have a goal of being under 30 high risk motions today, and they can shoot for that and know whether they're doing, better or worse against that goal, and we can continually, help them improve that way. There's also a number of customers who use our reward function, so rewarding people for wearing the device, for driving their numbers down, for being safer and developing those new habits, and that can be a powerful thing as well. So all of these tools are meant to help a worker really create new habits and drive sustained behavior change in the way they move.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because it's like I saw a picture on the website, and it doesn't seem like it's it's not cumbersome or anything like that. It doesn't seem like it gets in the way. You said hooks on your waistband, I guess, or your belt. So it's pretty cool, and I'm curious.
Yeah.
How did the idea actually come about for this? How did you guys, I guess, create this product and have this idea?
Yeah, for sure. As you mentioned, the device itself is, it's very easy to wear. It's one of the things that, we've really leaned into from the beginning is how do we make this product, easy for people to use, for the employees to want to pick it up and put it on, right? If no one's wearing it, it's not going to drive any change. So that experience and usability has been core to what we've done. And we've invested a lot to make something that sits on your hip, and we can go into the technology later, really be able to detect what your entire body is doing. So it's some great technology there. But the idea itself, so KINETIC's co-founder and CEO Haitham, really got to see the impact of workplace injuries when he was at a young age through his family. His mother worked as an elderly care nurse, a job that really strained her back and in turn their family as she underwent several work-related injuries. So that inspired him to explore later in life high-tech solutions to reduce workplace injuries. So he joined up with his co-founder and engineer friend Aditya, who's currently our CTO, to start KINETIC back in 2014. And to this day, KINETIC is driven by the human side of workplace injuries, doing all we can to reduce those injuries through data and technology. That's driven KINETIC through a number of iterations on different device types, different approaches to the problem, and it's gotten us to our current KINETIC Reflex, which has been showing some great results with the customers we work with.
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, that's a pretty great story. Now, I'm sure his mother is proud now that he's kind of done something to help people, and be able to reduce the amount of other people that have to go through those things, which is really a noble thing, and I think that's really an incredible story. And the fact that it's like you mentioned earlier, it has that human element where you're reducing workplace injuries and obviously cost for companies, but there is that effect and impact that it has on the employee's overall well-being, which is a huge thing, I think. And it's another thing that can just add to the overall good of humanity as a whole, especially as we look at labor surging within these more kind of manual labor things like warehouse, e-commerce, manufacturing, because of the way consumer behaviors have changed over time, especially with the pandemic as well. So it's really, really cool. I love the idea, and I guess it's more than an idea. I love the product, and I love the story of how it came about too as well. So we touched a little bit on the fact that it helps with ergonomics and different types of movements, ensuring that you have the right movement. So, but something else has come into play as well with the wearable, and I just mentioned the pandemic, but obviously that's the big topic in the past year, right? Everybody's life has been impacted by that, but the solution itself has been adapted in a way that you can utilize it for contact tracing as well. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I joined up with KINETIC a little over a year ago, which was right at the time that the pandemic had landed in the US and was starting to hit us hard, and things were shutting down back in March, about exactly a year ago. So at the time, there was a lot of uncertainty with our customers, and I joined the company, started talking to many of them. These are Fortune 500 companies in warehouse and manufacturing industries. Okay. And, a lot of uncertainty on how they keep their employees safe, their facilities open. The focus for them at the time was really getting through the next day, the next week, trying to figure out how do we approach COVID? How do we keep operating? Many of these are, different companies were essential businesses and workforces that needed to stay running during the pandemic. We realized after speaking with them that we had the technology in our Reflex wearable to help, and pivoted the entire company focus on that problem of COVID, to help our customers keep their essential workers safe and operations running. So there are two main challenges that we saw that we could help those companies with. So one was helping employees socially distance. This was a big challenge. It's a changing behavior. It's people are social and they like to be around each other and work together.
Right.
And how do we teach people in their days, to stay 6 feet or more away from everybody around them? And the second one was how to quickly and efficiently protect the rest of the workforce when someone did become ill or symptomatic with COVID. At the time, a single sick employee could shut down an entire facility for a couple of weeks.
Right.
And we needed to keep these, help keep these facilities open and help keep all the workers there safe. So, one of our customers, JLG Industries, it provides a great example of this. They're a world leader in design and manufacture of construction access equipment.
Okay.
They needed to evolve their safety program like everybody else amongst COVID. And they were one of the first customers that we worked with on both our proximity and our contact tracing features. So they had done a lot of the preventative measures that many others did around limiting the spread of COVID. So increased cleaning, social distancing, staggered work zones and shifts, a number of other things they put in place. And they really wanted to do everything they could to protect their workers. And so they also deployed KINETIC wearables, which at the time they were using for our ergonomics and injury reduction features to support illness prevention and help their workers perform their jobs safely. So what does KINETIC do in that? We provide real-time alerts when employees come within 6 feet of each other.
Okay.
So similar to the high-risk postures, is a light vibration. It really helps drive awareness of social distancing, remind people that there are others around them and they should pay attention to that, and drives that behavior change the same way the KINETIC devices drive ergonomic behavior changes. And two, the device knows when other devices are around it and keeps track of that and uploads that data to our cloud, which can be viewed through our dashboard. So we can provide accurate and efficient data for contact tracing when an employee does become ill or symptomatic. So when somebody tests positive or symptomatic for COVID, it's up to the employer to make a decision on, who else could have been infected, who needs to be sent home to quarantine.
Right.
And without a technology solution, like KINETIC provides, they need to rely on a person's recollection. So the good example of this, is do you remember who you were within 6 feet of for more than 15 minutes in the past 2 weeks? That's the question that these employers were asking someone when they became ill or symptomatic with a very serious disease. So, relying on someone's recollection for that was just not precise, not efficient.
Right.
And what happens is, as an employee, you either end up sending people home that didn't need to be, that were perfectly fine, or not sending home people who were exposed, or likely both. So just the outcomes of these exercises were just inefficient and imprecise. There's one customer I remember speaking with that was resorting to replaying CCTV footage. So you can imagine how long it takes to look at 2 weeks of shifts through TV footage, and how many more people were exposed to COVID during that time.
Yeah.
And so it's become even more difficult recently. In the fall, the CDC rolled out new guidelines which said 15 minutes cumulative time between two people over a 24-hour period. You just can't remember that. And that's where technology really comes to play, like KINETIC, where our contact tracing provide that precise data, so that information is available in seconds. The company can make the decisions they need to make efficiently. And it really allows employers to notify their at-risk employees sooner and in a more objective way. So, JLG is the example, I mentioned earlier. They deployed our devices with contact tracing, with proximity alerts, and they saw a significant decrease in the contacts workers were having. Okay. They also found, using our analytics and dashboards, some clear peak times in the data where the number of employees coming together and the duration was significantly longer than other times during the day. And then they were able to use that to make some engineering design changes to their facility, implement some additional safety protocols to really help avoid those contacts and keep the workers safer. So it's both a combination of when someone does become ill or symptomatic,
right.
We can help them precisely know how to take action and help support all the preventative measures to put in place around social distancing, around changes to the facility to really avoid those contacts and hopefully infections in the first place.
Interesting. Yeah. It's very in depth and comprehensive, I think, the solution, because, I've obviously there's, some other companies out there that are doing like the proximity measuring thing. And then there's also some other companies that are doing, location based on other types of technology. But I think this is the first one I've heard of that's able to, do the alert real time, but then also do this contract tracing feature as well within the same solution, which I think is really cool. And I think that it's very indicative of like a real good safety aspect, because it gives you the ability to react when something does happen, but it also gives you the ability to be preventative, as you mentioned, being able to tell at what times there's peaks in people kind of clustering together, and how to make those engineering changes or directional changes in the flow of workers, and be able to make those safety changes that can reduce the amount of contact. So that's really cool, and I like that you guys were able to pivot and make that happen, and recognize that you could use that technology. I've talked to a couple of companies on the podcast that have been able to do that and realized that, hey, we have technology that we can utilize right now to help people. So I think that's a really cool thing, and you guys are already doing really cool work with the reflex technology too, as well. So it's cool that you can combine that, and I think that's going to be something that's long lasting now as well. I think that's just going to be general practice. Maybe it loosens a little bit as we get out of this pandemic at some point, right? But
yeah, well, it certainly seems like with the vaccinations and everything happening now, there's some light at the end of the tunnel there, which it's been a very long year for a lot of people in our industry. Making it through this pandemic and figuring out how to both keep their businesses afloat and keep their workers safe. And at KINETIC, we've been extremely happy. I personally been happy with being able to do something to help. It's definitely meant a lot to us.
Yeah, I can imagine, definitely. So I mean, it's really going to be, I think, very cool to continue on utilizing the technology, and I'm sure, kind of these practices are probably gonna stay in place for a while, I would imagine, no matter how clear it appears to be or anything like that. So it's good that you guys were able to pivot and do something like that. So I want to kind of go back to the original technology that you guys created, right? So this is the reflex technology, and looking at ergonomics and moving in the wrong position. So how does the technology work exactly? Because it's clipped to your hip, right? So how does it get a sense of your movements? Like, how does it know like what part of your body is not moving in the right direction, or is in the and compromising position or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, at the core of this is data science. And there's some really fascinating technology built into the device. We've been working in this space for about 8 years now, and I can take you through some of that journey and how our device works. Yeah. As I mentioned before, it's a small device, clips onto your belt. And it has a number of sensors built into it that detect things like acceleration, movement, tilt of the device, a number of other parameters. It collects all of that data in real time, and then we process that through algorithms, looking at all the different inputs and determine what your body is doing. So we have millions of hours of data and machine learning and some very smart data scientists that turn all of those readings into knowing what your body is doing. So it's very similar to, if you might have an Apple or Android watch, it knows if you're walking or running, or as I usually get alerted to, sitting down for too long.
Yeah.
The same way that works is how, just sitting on your wrist is how the kinetic reflex device knows you're bending at your back and not at your knees. And so we've spent a lot of time over the last 8 years investing in that data and algorithms and machine learning. And it's really at the core of what our company does from a data perspective to understand what the body is doing based on the inputs just off of your hip. And you can imagine your hip is fairly central to your body ergonomics. Pretty much any motion you do, whether you're twisting or bending, right, it all comes from the center core of your body, and your hip is directly connected to that. But we looked at early on different approaches where if you could put a device, right on your spine, you can much more simply get these measurements and determine motion. Or if you had, multiple sensors across your body, you have a lot more precise data to work with there. But we try those out and workers don't wear them. They're cumbersome. If you've got something on your back, you've got to strap it on. It gets sweaty. So there's a lot of downsides to that. And what we really wanted to focus on is how can we get the information and get that signal we need, but also make it comfortable and easy to wear. Because again, if people don't wear it, they're not going to get the benefits from it. And that I think is an output of our kind of focus on the human side of things, of making sure that you would have the best technology in the world, but people aren't going to use it. It's not going to be effective. And so we really focused on how do we invest in getting all of the inputs and data we need in an easy to wear device, to provide the same level as, maybe an easier path to take to spread out some sensors around the body.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's really cool that you're able to get it into like this compact, convenient to wear size. And I think that's key, like you mentioned, because if it's not like convenient or comfortable to wear, it's like an unnatural feeling. People tend to not want to wear it or take it off after some time because it's bothering them. I've certainly seen, I'm sure you've probably seen them too. Your research is these like things on Instagram ads, like you put them on your back to help your posture or something like that. It's so just awkward looking. Like I can't imagine like sitting there with this little pod like stuck on my spine. It's a little different. So, the fact that this will just clip on, and, a lot of times when you're working in the warehouse as well, there's devices that'll clip on to you too, or something of that nature. So it's not much different. And it's a lot easier to get something impactful out of an easy to wear device versus something that just doesn't feel right. So it's cool that you guys have done that, and the fact that it's able to tell all those things just from like that the little thing on your hip is really cool as well. So how is it? So you said, I guess, when somebody does the wrong position, what's like the chain of events? I think you said it gives a vibration, and then what else can happen from there?
Yeah, sure. So the device itself will give a vibration to alert the person that they're, in the middle of doing something risky. And that just, helps them be aware of that, and they can change over time how they do that lift or the mechanics of their body. The device also records that data and sends it up to our cloud, where we store all of the data, and then we show that for a safety manager or a site manager. They can go into our web-based dashboard and see the data for all of their employees, individually or in aggregate, to help them get a sense of, are there particular jobs that are riskier than others, or are there particular workers who are doing a lot more of these high risk postures than others. And it gives them an opportunity to see where can I go and effectively coach, where can I apply my time to have the biggest impact. So a lot of the safety managers we work with may say, hey, every week tell me the 10 people I got to go talk to help them reduce the risky postures they're doing, the risky moves they're doing. And that they can provide support for the employees who need help. And they can also, recognize the employees who are improving or, doing a great job as well. So we really look at the data we collect as just as valuable for the managers and helping the employees as the device it is to help the employee as they're doing their job throughout the day. Those are two key aspects of our product.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, I love the data aspect too as well, because being, I guess, in charge of safety for my facility that I work at during the day is, it's lifting techniques are the hardest thing to enforce and coach and train, because, people are, you have, several people, in a large building, obviously anything is hard to see all the time. And they're constantly making movements, especially in the warehouses. They're picking, they're shipping, they're moving boxes, they're doing this and that. And, you can show them diagrams and videos as much as possible, but it's hard to, really get people to, I guess, train that into themselves and make it a habit the way they lift, because, they may have done something their whole life for how long? It's muscle memory kind of, in a sense. So the fact that you can really know how people are doing this and, be able to actually show them what they're doing and then, coach them based on that is really kind of a big step up. And I think in the safety world and the safety management world as well. And, it really gives you an opportunity to have an impact and be effective in that aspect, because, you have issues like that. And I mean, I had somebody the other day and, he just said his shoulder hurts because he decided to push a box trying to slide it against the floor instead of lifting it. And he didn't realize the weight, and his shoulder hurt after. And it's kind of like, that alert is not really necessarily there in your head, fully consciously, right? So this vibration obviously can give you the idea. Okay, let me stop and think about this. What am I actually doing here? When in a sense, sometimes you're just constantly trying to keep moving, and you don't necessarily think the full range of motion through. So it's a really cool innovation and technology and idea, and I love it so much. So I'm curious, is this available for the consumer market as well? I mean, I could see people that would be interested in just using this in their daily lives.
Yeah, right now we are focused on enterprise customers. As mentioned before, we work with, primarily think of larger self-insured companies, Fortune 500, who are in the manufacturing and warehousing business. But, absolutely, as we grow as a company and we move further along, there's potential in other industries, in consumer market. There's a lot of potential for us to grow in those different directions. And as a startup, we are growing as fast as we can, and we've got a great number of customers right now. And every day we're shipping out more devices and getting KINETIC on more people. So we're really proud of that.
Definitely, yeah. It'll be interesting to see how you guys grow, and you gotta be careful, because you might have the chiropractic industry coming after you if you injuries, right?
Yeah, it's one of the things I really like about our device is you mentioned how hard it is to drive behavioral change, and we know from our own studies that we've done, from other industry studies, that if you want to drive real behavior change, something like lift mechanics or how someone is moving, it takes weeks or maybe even months to really have those new habits set in, so that they change the way someone is moving naturally. And that's something where having the KINETIC device it's a coach you can have with you through those weeks, through those months, and it's always there, always reminding you and helping you develop. Because you see a lot of you may bring in an ergonomic specialist to the organization. They might be there for a week. And you can drive some change short term, but keeping long-term changes and establishing those habits is much more difficult. So, reflexes and our wearable is something that can really help drive those longer-term changes and augment what safety managers and site managers are doing themselves and doing with other coaching along ergonomics.
Definitely, yeah. I couldn't agree more. And I think it's. I've said it a couple of times already. I think it's a great product, and it's constantly there with the employee, which I like so much. And there's the chance to fix an issue as it's happening, instead of after the damage has already been done. So that's the best part about it. So Chris, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. How can people find out more information about KINETIC?
Yeah, they can check out our website, wearkinetic.com. It's wearkinetic.com. And it's been great having you, great being on your show. Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. I love talking through KINETIC and safety and wearable devices. So this was great.
Definitely, yeah. And thank you for coming on. And we'll put the link to your website on thenewwarehouse.com as well. So thanks again for your time.
All right. Thanks, Kevin.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.